This brings me to a follow-up question on what you just said. On the example of Armenia, where armed conflicts start or incidents like that happen very often, and then there's time for you to process that or think about that, it's almost like now that you have more space to think about what just happened, the level of stress kind of increases. So how can we invite that same state of flow in those kind of circumstances?
It's an excellent question. We often joked with the paramedics that they're always at their best when they're actually in the work.
Mhm.
It's when they're at the station and not doing anything in particular, that's when the trouble begins.
Yeah, so true.
So when I would go visit busy stations and have a chance just to chat with the paramedics, they are fully engaged. They are in the work. When I go to a station that hasn't had a busy day and they're just kind of idling around, they're disgruntled. They're not engaged. They're making up scenarios. They're right. They're trying to fix the world at that point.
Right.
And there's a lesson in there in the sense of where is your focus? And it comes down to an understanding. And this is something that's never or hasn't been. I know they're starting to get into a little bit more into the academies, into the training facilities. So when people get recruited, whether into the military or into the police force or into paramedicine or even firefighting, they're taught how to treat patients. You see bleeding, you put pressure on, you're all the, but they're never taught the softer skills. So what happens before the call, what happens after the call? And just as much of what happens during the call is prepared before the call. And what you do after the call will determine everything that you do next. We're not taught that. We're not taught the implications of what a busy mind is. Or how to, okay, when you do get caught up in your thinking and everything starts to look real and how you react on that reality, we're not taught that to question it. We're not taught to, okay, maybe I should be less busy about that or pay less attention to that. And that's the beauty about when you get absorbed into your work, is that that drops away. And all that's left is just to do. But when you have nothing to do in front of you, then all that extra that emptiness gets filled with something. And when that gets filled with something and it looks very real, as in the case with your example is a potential future threat. There's another thing that just occurred to me, that in the emergency services, we're always taught to be prepared. Right? So we do a lot of planning around that. The what ifs, the what ifs, the what ifs. So it is a bit natural habit of ours to look at towards uncertainty and try and think and be prepared for it.
Exactly.
Right? So it is a habit. It's a habit I sometimes get involved in. But I've noticed through experience, once you experience the fact that, well, wait a minute, I don't have to be as prepared. I can let go of. It's like going to a call, like I was saying with the shooting or anything. Like one of the remarks that my partners used to say to me is, "How can you be so calm?" And I go, "Well, like, why not?" "Well, we're going to a motor vehicle accident. Aren't you worried about what you're going to see?" I says, "Why don't I worry about it when I see it?"
Right. And it's interesting, isn't it? It's also the more practical thing to do, because once we realize that the state of presence will be the thing that will invite the best solution that will be applicable to the moment, then we will automatically let go of it, especially when we're dealing with kind of an external chaos. So it's a little counterintuitive because we have this presumption that certain situations are more stressful than others. And we know that we have resilience and we seem to have access to that in certain areas of our lives. But when it comes to the area where perhaps that resilience is needed most, then our relationship with our thinking becomes a little more distorted.
Absolutely. And it is funny. And what I appreciate about what the three principles keeps pointing to is that when we actually become consciously notice what's going on, then we have those opportunities to go, oh, okay, that's just my habitual thinking going on right now. I don't necessarily have to pay attention to that. I can drop that and then just see what's happening. So right now, like, a partner say, well, why aren't you thinking about the accident? And I'm driving.
Yeah.
You're right. So being present is vital. Where am I in the moment? How do I need to show up in this moment? Let Rick of 10 minutes from now show up then, and he will respond accordingly. Now that takes trust. That takes a bit of faith.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a conversation with somebody and point out all the times in their life where that has occurred, they start to realize that it's happened more often than not. And it's just our thinking that keeps removing us away from that particular state. So it's noticing and trusting and letting go of that moment and get more present.